All right, well, when last we had a conversation, I had just passed through Deception Pass for the very first time. So that was fun. I've driven over that thing 10 times probably and looked down every time and kind of gone, someday I'll be going through there. I did the same thing with Flaming Gorge Reservoir when I was first looking at getting my first boat back in Utah. I would go to the Red Canyon overlook and I'd look down on Flaming Gorge down there, which is about 1,000 feet below that overlook, and I'd see the boats down there and I'd say, someday that'll be me. And then one day it was me, and I kind of had to stop and have a moment there. So I didn't stop and have a moment in Deception Pass. I just went through it, but it was really cool to go through there for the first time, and not too scary when going through at slack tide. It's 200 feet wide or something like that, so it's big, and everybody just kind of gets on the line. There was a boat in front of me, a boat behind me, and off we went. And then the passing over to Lopez Island only took about an hour. I was thinking it would take longer than that, but I poked around Lopez Island quite a bit and found some great anchorages there. Hunter Bay is where I spent 2 nights. I actually anchored there the first night and then got up and left and came back because it was such a great spot. So, but then everything went sideways, and it went sideways in a big way with the charging system. Now, I'll just tell you what was happening is I was not getting the batteries charged back up, so I was kind of stepping my way down. I'd go down to 60%, and then I'd charge back up to 70, and next day I'd go down to 40 and charge up. I mean, I'm making the numbers up, but I was kind of stepping down each time, and I finally hit the point where it caused me some problems. So I'll try to kind of get you all through all that process, but it was some really good stuff and some really sideways stuff. Once again anchored back here in Hunter Bay. So I'll give you the update since I took off. I motored up to Orcas Island and went up in the kind of inlet in the middle of Orcas Island. It's shaped like a big U, and I did find that if I bumped the RPMs up a little bit, I could get the charging rate a little higher on the batteries. So I woke up this morning, we were at 30%. I motored around for about 4 hours with bumped up RPMs and got it up to a little over 50%. So not optimal, but I'm going to kind of stay dark here tonight, and I think I'll start heading my way back. Now I'm going to bring you out here on the bow of the boat because I talked about that bridle I was going to hook up. So it's a little windier today. Hopefully this wind won't be too bad. You can kind of see what I've done here. And these are not big enough ropes, I don't think, for that job, but I think we're all right for now. At least it'll be a little quieter on the clunking noise. It's a little windier than it was yesterday here so far, but I wouldn't be surprised if that calms down a little as the sun goes down. So yeah, I got oil leak on the steering. Generator runs but doesn't pump any water and doesn't do me any good because it doesn't run power to the inverter. And so yeah, I think it's time to head back and get with the guys at S3 Maritime and kind of go over some of this stuff with them. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll spend the night here
check my timetables for when the slack is for going through Deception Pass again. It's about an hour and a half, I'd say, from here to Deception Pass across the sound out there, Rosario Strait. And then, so I'll have to plan accordingly. But that's where we're at for now, so I'll check in if anything dramatic happens.
All right, we're running for home. This is not optimal. So the battery, the house bank got down to about 30%. And then just before I got ready to pull up the anchor and get moving this morning, everything just shut off. So the Victron controller, the battery management system, all that stuff is dead. And so we've got nothing. We have no depth finder, we have no tachometers, we got no chart plotters, we got no radios. I had my handheld VHF here. It worked for a little while, but it was obviously not charged very well, or if it doesn't hold a charge very well, I had it plugged it in on its base station, so I might have to get a new battery or get a new handheld as a backup. I do have Navionics on the iPad here, and so we're not totally dead in the water, but we're not broadcasting any AIS. I got a ferry going by leaving Anacortes over here. I don't know if you can see that through the isinglass, it's pretty dirty. And I have another ferry coming up behind us from probably Friday Harbor, that kind of thing. So we're getting into fairly busy chunk of water. I've talked to the guys at S3 Maritime. They're gonna call me back. He said it will charge the house bank off the alternators even with everything shut off, but it doesn't seem to be looking like it's charging much on the amp meters. I'm running about 7 knots, which is where I was running yesterday when I was seeing about 1,000 watts of charging into the system. Kind of hoping everything will turn itself back on magically at some point, but I don't know. He's sounded like, it shouldn't have done that. Might be the BMS is hung up or something. So had to haul the anchor up by hand this morning. That was pleasant. It was all muddy and whatnot, and so I wasn't able to, but I had no windlass because, again, we got no power. So this went from a minor inconvenience to kind of a shit show in just a minute. So I definitely got to get this sorted out. So we're just gonna head back to Seattle. They said it'll probably be tomorrow before I have them come over to look at it, but they'll send somebody out to have a look at it and see if we can figure out what's going on. And I'll also figure out why the generator doesn't seem to be charging the thing, and what I need to do to get that thing where it looks like it's pushing enough water through it to not cook the thing. So I don't know, I might just have them quote me a new generator. This is not worth screwing around with all this kind of old stuff with new stuff hooked to it. So, but I'll get to the bottom of it. I showed you a minute ago, Mount Baker is up in the distance there. Let's see if I can do a little zoom. It's not too good on this side, just on one little handhelds, but it's pretty this morning. Oh, I better zoom back out. So I considered going down back through Deception Pass and making the run that way, or even potentially crossing over to Port Townsend. But I checked Windy, and it looks like that wind on the Juan de Fuca Strait is about 20 knots. So it'd be pretty lumpy. I could probably do it, but it'd be a pretty unpleasant ride for a couple of hours. I think what I'll do is I will go down, I'm going into Anacortes, and I'll go around and go down the canal and come out at La Conner, and then just turn a corner and head for home. Okay, so I'm kind of recapping some of this after the fact, but I gave up on going around the canal up there and turned around before I got it to Anacortes and came down. And I'll tell you why, just because mostly I didn't have any depth sounder. I'd never been through that canal before, and reading through the guide, it had me all nervous about spots where it might be shallow. So I came down, crossed the strait, did my track back. It took me from about, I think I hauled the anchor up at about 9:30 in the morning, and again I hauled that up by hand. It's all muddy and that was messy, but it wasn't in the winch right. So I got in here and tried to dock the boat, and the wind was blowing out of the north and I couldn't get it tied up by myself. I made one pass at it, and as soon as I was all lined up pretty good, coming in good, but as soon as I kind of stopped applying power, then she started to drift to the side, and there's only 3 feet, 4 feet between me and the boat next to me. So I had to bail out, and as I was backing back out, the bow blew over a little bit, and I kind of hit he's got some fender holders on the back rail in front of my boat, just scraped along that for a minute. So I had never met the guy. So I was sitting there on the boat and I saw him come up on the boat. He doesn't live on it, so he was not here all the time, but he did come up here. So I popped my head out and I was like, hey, hi, I'm your neighbor. I crashed into your boat. So that was awkward. He was cool about it. He said, you know, he had said he came back in the other day while I was out, and he's like, it's a good thing you were out. He says, I almost impaled myself on the dock because the wind was blowing the other direction or the same direction, and he had all kinds of trouble docking. So he definitely could relate. And again, it was no real damage done, so he was very gracious about it, and I appreciated that. But yeah, it's time to get the stern thruster because that just doesn't fly. So anyway, again, I didn't really go into a ton of detail while I was doing it up there, but I just didn't dare go through the canal. So I thought, well, I'll turn around, I'll go down. When I get to Deception Pass, if I'm close to slack time, I might go through there, but if not, I'll keep going, on the assumption if it gets too bad, I could turn around and, you know, I figured I'd give it an hour or so, and if it wasn't too bad, I have to backtrack a little bit, but I could go through the pass. So it all worked out good, but I need to kind of sit down and have a hard think about all this stuff. All right, well, it's amazing what a shower will do and a good night's sleep. It was a night's sleep. It wasn't that good because I kept waking up and kind of playing the whole docking disaster over and over in my brain. But I got a lot of stuff to do to figure out what went wrong, figure out what we're going to do to fix it. So I'll probably, for now, go ahead and wrap this one up, and then I'll take you through in detail what I learned about why my Victron system shut down on me. I've learned a little bit more about how to kind of restart it, but I want to figure out why, A, we're not really charging enough to keep up with our needs, and B, what caused that outage, because that was extreme. And I got a couple of other questions about the system, like the old battery charger is still down there, and I'm not really sure if it's doing anything, or if it's not, then it should be taken out. I got to get that. I think I can move that bow thruster control from the upper helm down to the lower helm myself, because that's just moving the wiring and the switch. But definitely going to have to look into getting that stern thruster put on. So a lot to do to make me a little more where I can kind of do my thing without it having to be perfect weather. Now, like right now, this morning, again, it's calm as can be out there. So had I been docking in this weather, I'd have been fine, because I can do slow, easy approach. I can line the thing up. It's not like I'm having trouble getting into the slip. It's just if the wind blows, and that's what the previous owner told me. He said he doesn't take it out and over 10 knots out of the slip or in the slip or whatever. So, and I could see it. You know, his wife was with him, and I think she had a bad leg, but me and the guy that was helping me, we were pulling on those ropes like two good sturdy dudes pulling on ropes with all our might to heave this thing over against a slip last night, and it's hard to move it. So I could see where that would be difficult for a couple. I could see where that'd be a problem, but there's a way to fix it, and it just takes money. So there we go. So come back next time. I'll give you the reasons behind what happened and the things we did to fix the generator and da-da-da-da-da-da, and hopefully it'll be all wrapped up and I can do this again and spend longer out there.